you thinking about moving to Florida from New York?
Well, in this video, we're going to talk about some of the things you will want to keep in mind, some of the things you'll need to know, and some of the differences.
Before we get into it, if you're looking to move to the area, call, text, or email me. I'll have my information in the description box below.
People are getting a hold of her every single day. We love hearing from you guys, and we love helping you out with any questions you have.
So let's talk about some of the advantages of moving to Florida from New York. The first one, from what I've heard from a lot of people that reach out to me, is the tax advantages.
No state income tax is a pretty big perk,
especially when you compare it to New York.
And with that, I would think something, we try not to get political on this channel ever, but like there's obviously some major differences politically and with COVID and things like that right now that maybe some people would find advantageous about Florida. You know, I think there's a little bit less restrictions, there's less taxation on different things that you're gonna have in New York. And so because of that, the lifestyle is quite a bit different.
And I would say too, the lifestyle here, it's a little more affordable than it is in New York, especially like New York City. A lot of people do want to move down because of, you know, our warm weather. In New York, you were, you know, cooped up for
3,
months.
4, 5, 6 months maybe.
Almost a year.
Yeah, we're from Wisconsin, so we know the story.
Yeah. So when it's nice outside, you don't want to be home. When it's winter, it's like, oh, whatever, I'll stay in. I don't care, because I was that person in Wisconsin. Like, we would stay home a lot. But when it's nice outside, you do want to enjoy the few months out of the year that you do have to enjoy outside.
Yeah, and down here, that's not the case. Literally year round, we're outside doing stuff. We're much more active. We're taking walks year round. So just that side of things is very nice. And going back to what you were talking about also with getting more for your money, I mean, a house that you're going to maybe pay $1 million for there, $1 million here is probably going to get you a place. If you're in New York City, down here, it would be like 3 to 4 times that size.
Yeah, and a lot of people too are taking advantage of the market. In New York, you can sell, and I've had this with a few of my buyers. They're selling their home there for a lot more than they would have in a typical market, and then they're coming down here and buying a house that's a lot less expensive, and now they're cashing in on their house, you know, like that's kind of like their retirement. And some people like this, some people don't like this, and I understand why you wouldn't, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, because you feel like you don't have many options. But for the people that did have equity built into their homes, they can now sell that house for a lot more than they would have in a typical market, come down here and get a very nice house for their money and still have money left over.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the big changes that might shock someone that moves down here. I think one thing that people are going to have to get used to, or two really, that come to mind first and foremost, is the heat and humidity that's going to be year-round. The summers are going to be hot all the time. I wouldn't say they're that much hotter temperature-wise than what you'll get in New York. It's just more consistently hot and much more humid. And then I would say the other big change is just going to be the constant, you know, there's more life, and I don't mean that by people, I mean like bugs, plants growing, weeds year round. You know, there's a yard to take care of year round. So because of the year round warmth, there's just a lot more bugs and critters and all that other kind of stuff. And if you're coming from like New York City, that's going to be a very, very big change.
Yes. Even for us, like, we're from a small town in Wisconsin, and coming down here, like, we do see a lot more bugs. And in the summer when it rains, then you have all these weeds popping out of everywhere. So that can be a little bit frustrating too.
And the yard grows like crazy. Well, this is a pro and a con, I guess. During the winter, I think I went a month and a half without having to mow the lawn. But then during the summer, sometimes you'll be mowing the lawn 2, maybe even occasionally 3 times a week. So it can be a lot to keep up with, but you know, that might not even be an issue for you if you maybe go to what Florida has a lot of, which is HOA communities where your lawn maintenance is handled, or maybe you're hiring someone to mow your lawn. Then it's not a problem for you. Maybe outside of the cost it would be if you're hiring someone to do the lawn.
Right. And I mean, in summer, even though there is a lot more to take care of, the lawns just do look a lot nicer.
Yeah, the grass is much different down here.
Yes, that's another thing to consider.
It's not that the grass is greener down here, it's just different, and it grows year round. So it is greener, I guess, because of that. Yeah. But one other big difference is, of course, beaches, amusement parks. You know, all the things that people kind of know of Florida. I don't think we have to go too in depth with it, but you know, you got all your stuff in Orlando, you've got Busch Gardens in Tampa area, Sarasota's got big cat habitat. You got South Beach, you got the Miami area, and just
Florida Keys.
Pretty much all of Florida is a beach unless you're right in the middle, and even then it's not going to take you much more than an hour to get to a beach.
I believe it's like 60 miles. Anywhere in Florida within 60 miles there is like a body of water, so
can't beat that.
Yeah.
One other really big difference that I think you have to take into consideration, especially if you're coming from New York City, is where you're going to move to in Florida, because your perception of the area, we get comments all the time from people saying this city's too slow, this city's too busy, this city's too congested, and you name it. You're going to want to have a good idea of what you want. Like, maybe you're sick of being in New York City because it's too crowded. Well, then don't go to Miami, don't go to Orlando. Probably, find somewhere like where we live in Venice. Maybe you want something more relaxed, or maybe you're used to something relaxed and you want that, or maybe you're used to something small and you want to go to a big city, and that'll make a big difference. That's one thing we found coming from a smallish town in Wisconsin. We moved to Orlando. We liked it, but it was just a little bit too fast-paced for us and a little bit too crowded, I guess, in areas. We might have just decided, hey, well, let's just go back up to Wisconsin, but we found Venice, loved the area, decided to move here, and we're really glad we made that decision. I think having an idea where you want to go and someone that can guide you to get to that right place is important.
Yes, and that's what I was going to say too. A lot of times you come and visit Florida or whatever state you want to move to, but you're only there for a certain amount of time. You can only do so much, you can only drive so much. So having someone in that state, like us, what we'll do for our buyers is we'll send you a video. If you're thinking about purchasing a home but you're not sure, we'll take a video of that home, send it over, and that way you can decide for yourself, okay, yes, this is what I want. But also you do want to talk to your realtor, and I would love it if that would be me.
I'll text or email.
You do want to let us know what you're looking for. What do you want? What do you want in a neighborhood? What do you want in a city? What are you truly looking for? And that way we can help guide you better.
Yeah, and just like any state, there's gonna be your good cities, your bad cities, your good and bad pockets of a city. So there's just so much to consider, and maybe you even want to live in the country, whatever that may be. You need someone to kind of help guide you to the right area, because that can really make or break your decision being a good one or a bad one.
And you want to be clear as to what your expectations are and what you want to, because when we first moved to Florida, we thought we wanted to be in a big city. So that's what we told our realtor. We want to be in a big city. She gave us just what we asked for.
And then we found out it wasn't for us.
So you do want to have a clear expectation, and when you talk to your realtor, be clear on what you want, and maybe even come up with, like, which we did this, come up with 5 things that you must have in a city or in a neighborhood, and what it's a deal breaker, like your needs, your wants, what's a deal breaker. That way you'll know exactly, okay, these are our top 5 priorities. Can you deliver this for me?
Yeah.
Another advantage moving to Florida is that there's a homestead exemption. And what that means is that you get a tax credit if you're a full-time resident, that you purchase a home and move here full-time, you'll get that exemption, and it's up to $50,000 a year.
One other really important thing to consider is snowbird season, or just the winter in general. Because it's not just snowbirds, but winter down here, it's beautiful. The weather's great. You get a little bit of, some days that feel kind of like fall or spring, and then some days that feel right back to summer. But then you also get a lot of tourists coming down to Disneyland. You get a lot of retirees that come down, and maybe that's, you're looking to just maybe have a retirement home. But with that brings a lot more congestion into the cities. Venice, where we live, very retirement heavy city. Some people live here permanently, but there's also a lot of people that just come down for the winter. And it's a small town. And in the summer, traffic is a breeze. But then in the winter, it is much more congested. And again, like we talked about, like where you're coming from, like if you're coming from New York City, is going to really shift your perspective on if a city's boring, or if it's not, it's going to shift your perspective on that traffic quite a bit as well. If you're from New York City, I can't see most cities' traffic being too big of an issue for you, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And if you're from outside, maybe more upstate New York, then maybe, something like Orlando is going to be like, whoa, that's a little bit much for me. We have friends actually that live by us that are from New York and from upstate New York, and they thought, Miami's too crazy, Orlando's too crazy. So
Yeah, it's all perspective really, and where you're coming from. And Venice, yeah, it does get a little more congested in winter, but it's not like dangerous like say Orlando, where like it's congested, it's dangerous. There's a lot of tourists driving. Like people are on different, people are doing different things. So here it's like it's just slower.
Yeah, it's slower traffic, it's congested and slow traffic, and then other cities like Orlando, yeah, you're gonna have some crazy drivers, aggressive drivers. It's everything mixed.
Yes.
And then I think one final thing to consider is, like we mentioned earlier, we don't like to get political on this channel. Don't even like seeing comments, honestly, on it most of the time, just because it's not what this channel is about. But if that is an important thing to you, then where you end up is going to be a big difference. Overall, Florida is going to be more conservative than most of New York, especially like New York City. So there are like cities like Orlando is going to tend to lean a little more left compared to the rest, Miami as well. So, that's something you want to keep in mind. And again, a realtor can help kind of steer you one way or the other. Again, we're not going to tell you like this is a good city or a bad city because of that. We don't like to get involved in it, but we understand it is important to some people because they feel like it, and politics are important, or the way the lifestyle is going to be because of those politics is important to them.
And if you want someone to help you find the right area for you, make sure to call, text, or email. My information will be in the description box below.
People get a hold of her daily. We love hearing from you guys. We love helping you out, especially the people that are watching the videos, because it's always so cool to connect with people that have been watching.
And like a lot of times I'll forget that, like you watch us on YouTube, and I'll start telling you, yeah, like we moved to the Orlando area, and it's like, yeah, like I know because I watch your videos.
If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on all notifications to catch the newest videos, leave a comment, let us know your thoughts or questions, but even better, get a hold of her and live breezy.